Hello everyone, and welcome to Your Next Year, some speculation about Season 7 of Game of Thrones. Now, when we look at the show as it stands right now, for all of our heroes that have been killed off, other than Cersei, Euron, and the Night's King, we don't have many villains left. But are all of our heroes really going to stay heroes? The safe bet to turn on us is Dany. She's the daughter of a mad king, her first instincts aren't always the most merciful, as we can see here.
Sometimes it is better to answer injustice with mercy.
I will answer injustice with justice.
I will crucify the masters. I will set their fleets afire, kill every last one of their soldiers, and return their cities to the dirt.
And now she has quite a bit of power, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. But I'm not here to talk about that. I want to talk about the good guy family of the show, the Starks. Who here looks different? Maybe Jon? Arya? No, it's Sansa. Now, I'm not saying she will go full Ramsay, but she is a conflicted character. Just because she's made a few positive decisions doesn't mean she won't turn evil on us. It wouldn't be out of character either. From the start of the show, out of all the Starks, Sansa's the least like her father. Ned was an honorable man, he had pride in Winterfell in the north, he hated bloodshed and politics, and he refrained from killing unless there was no other option. And if there was no other option, he would be the one to carry out the sentence himself. Can we say anything even remotely like this about Sansa? Let's look at the evidence. First off, Sansa lies. Like a lot. And she starts lying from the beginning of the show, and never seems to think about anyone other than herself. She's nothing like her siblings and father who selflessly tell the truth and do what is right, even when they're facing grave consequences. Compare her actions to her family's. Her brother from a kidnapped mother, Jon, told the whole truth about his time with the wildlings, even the fact that he slept with Ygritte, something that could have, and sort of did, cost him his life. Her father, Ned, told Cersei that he knew the truth about Joffrey, and was honorable to a fault. Her other brother, Robb, killed one of his bannermen, which cost him quite a few soldiers, because it was the right thing to do at the time. Sansa, on the other hand, in the second episode, she lied to save Joffrey, of all people, and was directly to blame for a boy and a direwolf being killed. Don't believe me?
You're a liar, and if you told the truth, Micah would be alive.
Later in the same season, she agrees to send a letter to Robb and her mother, attempting to convince them to pledge for King Joffrey just because she thought she loved the little blonde sociopath, even though Robb himself was fighting for the honor of their father and family. Even as recently as last season, she lied to Jon about how she learned about the Blackfish, and didn't tell him about her asking Littlefinger for help at the Battle of the Bastards. She also learned from the wrong people. When she was at Winterfell and still very young, her father spoiled her instead of teaching her the values that he taught the boys. She was already obsessed with status at the time, and she was the only one who treated Jon more like a bastard than a brother. She cared more about getting married and having a nice title and fancy dresses and getting out of Winterfell than anything else. The only steadying influence on her was her father Ned, but once he died, she was left alone at King's Landing and had to start to learn how to behave on her own. And so she looked to the wrong people for help. Just look at who she took advice from.
Permit me to share some womanly wisdom with you on this very special day. The more people you love, the weaker you are.
A man with no motive is a man no one suspects.
Always keep your foes confused. If they don't know who you are or what you want, they can't know what you plan to do next.
As a result, she started to become more like Cersei the Incest Queen and Mr. Manipulation himself, Littlefinger, than her own family. And they're not the only people she learned from. Just look at what she did to Ramsay. Letting dogs eat his face and smiling while it was happening? Who else do we know who enjoyed torturing people? Joffrey and Ramsay himself. Her father would never have condoned such a thing. He didn't enjoy killing, and especially not in this way. That wasn't carrying out the sentence by herself. That was just sick. She's also recently become hungry for power. The rest of her family all found power for themselves. Robb was king in the north, Jon is king in the north and was Lord Commander, Bran is the three-eyed raven, and Arya, who also didn't have power for much of the show, found other ways to get it. Sansa never truly had control of her own fate. First, it was her father who controlled her, then Cersei, then, without her knowledge, Littlefinger used her to kill Joffrey, thus saving her temporarily before he pawned her off on Ramsay. For this entire show, she never had any power, and once a person's hungry for power, they don't stop until they have it all. So when she finally got free from the clutches of everyone else, she tried to get her own life back together and get control of it by manipulating Jon to get her Winterfell back. And she definitely manipulated Jon. She used what she learned from her teachers to do this.
A monster has taken our home and our brother. We have to go back to Winterfell and save them both.
What should we do? How do we get Rickon back?
We'll never get him back.
Now, to her credit, when they start to plan the fight against Ramsay, she starts by trying to do the right things, by bringing the North in to support them in the battle, and we see Jon bring in the Wildlings and Davos bring in House Mormont, but we see her fail to bring in House Glover, and mostly because she uses the argument that she's owed the loyalty. After failing to recruit, she resorts to doing things behind the scenes, which sounds a lot like someone else we know. All she's learned how to do in her life is connive and manipulate through speech. She's nothing like the other Northerners, who are people of action. Jon, Robb, her father, and even her little sister are people of action. Sansa wants to feel powerful, and now she understands things won't just be given to her, so she's going to start to try to take them for herself. And she started a little bit already. Why do you think she didn't tell Jon about the Knights of the Vale? And why is she keeping Littlefinger around and taking advice from him still? One final point, which is more symbolic than anything else, and is largely conjecture on my part. In the second episode, we saw her direwolf Lady die. I think this had considerable significance. I believe that the direwolf represents each of the Stark's children's connection with the Stark house, and when the direwolf dies, part of that connection dies along with it. Bran's direwolf died when he became the Three-Eyed Raven, because he's much more than just a Stark now. Arya's direwolf is lost, mirroring her own loss of identity, and now that she remembered that she is Arya Stark, we might even see a reunion with Nymeria in Season 7, since they are also both at the Riverlands. Robb's direwolf died with him, and Rickon's died right before him. Jon's direwolf is the only one that's still alive, and he's alive more or less and acting like a true Stark as King of the North. Lady died when Sansa went south, which symbolizes the fact that from that point on, she became more of a Southerner than a Stark. Now, with all that said, this is what I believe will happen. First, Jon as King of the North is not good for Littlefinger. It completely undermines his plan. You know who else is a problem for Littlefinger? The Mother of Dragons. I think Littlefinger will somehow try to pit them against each other, maybe even by getting support from Euron against the alliance of Dany and the younger Greyjoys. Littlefinger won't sit idly by while the power in Westeros shifts, and Sansa will have to choose with whom she wants to place her fortunes. So which way will she go? Let's look at her character one more time. She learned from these guys. She got influenced by these guys. The only tools she has are lying and manipulation. I can see the arc with her and Littlefinger going one of two ways. Number one, she'll let Littlefinger do his thing without warning Jon, but will regret it in the end and help Jon at the last minute and probably kill Littlefinger. Number two, she'll try to play both of them to get what she wants. She'll let Littlefinger do his thing, but when she betrays him, she'll be doing it for herself and not for Jon. It'll probably backfire in some way. Or I'm wrong and she will stay a boring character for the rest of the series. Well, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, leave your opinions in the comments below, and have a nice day.